Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Real World Productivity Podcast. The title of today's interview is Automating Your Life for Routine Success with Kathryn Jones. I'm Adam Moody.
How are you?
Today, I'm talking with productivity and automation expert, and you probably know her name by now since I just said it, but her name is Kathryn Jones. We're going to be talking about some of the tips and secrets and insidery stuff that all the online entrepreneurs need to know to shortcut their way to success with automation in order to get great results faster. So welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Good deal. Well, I appreciate you being here for this, and we're just going to kind of jump right into it. So my first set of questions is mostly about your background and experience in the field of productivity so that people listening can understand a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe how they can relate to where they are right now. And then after that, we'll kind of jump into some more of the more detailed stuff that I'm looking forward to talking about with you. But yeah, if you don't mind, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself in terms of your background or education and experience in productivity?
Yeah, of course. So, I just grew up, went to school, got my undergrad, and I think I was always just, non-diagnosed OCD a little bit and just loved all things organization, couldn't get enough, read books all the time. And so I was a just huge enthusiast for any self-help book that ever existed. But after I was just about graduating college, and I was running a business on the side. I was going to school full time, and I was working full time. So with another job that I was wrapping up, and so I just had a lot of things I was doing. In fact, way too many things. And so my life got to a point where I was, for lack of a better term, a hot mess. And I realized that there were some things that I needed to change, just honestly for survival. And so I started to try to figure out how I could do these things just easier, whether it was any realm of routine, streamline my business practices, just structure things differently, get processes more in line. And so whereas before I was kind of studying productivity just as a hobby, it became more of a necessity at this point, just if I was going to keep my head above water. And and so I started to practice a few things, and I started to really find some systems that worked. And I'm big in the internet marketing world, and so softwares and programming and automation and things like that are just super fascinating to me, and they're kind of a part of everything I do. And so I kind of had this thought, well, what if I combined this concept of productivity with this concept of automation, and what could come from that? So started to do a ton of research, started to practice, started to teach it to a bunch of people, and saw a lot of success. And ever since then, I've just been preaching the good word of automation and productivity, because I just can't get enough of it. So that's kind of where it started for me.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, then that explains a little bit of the background. And then have you had any, what I would call like formal training or education? I guess the answer is no, there's not like the College of Productivity, but like, did you have anything where you're like, man, this is what really, helped me take some big steps or anything like that? Maybe books or courses, or was it just kind of figuring things out on your own?
It was actually a great combination of all of them. A ton of books, a ton of courses. I'm an online course junkie, more than I wish to admit. I had some really incredible business coaches that made me look myself and my problems and my bad habits really in the face to say, what are you doing and why do you keep doing them? But I'm being very honest that it was more of my formal training in internet marketing that actually helped me to refine this process for productivity. Just because when you're selling a product or pitching any sort of thing or trying to automate any kind of software, it has to be very specific. And there's not a lot of room for error. It has to be very nailed down. You have to tell the system exactly what you want it to do. And taking that mindset and incorporating it into more productivity, that was actually the training that helped me more than any mindset coach, although they were great, Yeah. But it was just kind of like the systematic nature of things combined with this principle of human behavior that actually really helped.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. And I want to talk to you more about the automation, but you mentioned coaches, and this wasn't something I was planning on asking you about, but I do find it interesting. So most people, and this may be my own bias, but think of like, you've got to be a CEO, or you've got to, have a large corporation, and that's when you get mentors and that type of a situation. So I think that's interesting. And I think it's something that's helpful that I want to certainly ask you about. Like, how did you go about that? Did someone approach you? Did somebody say, hey, you should talk to this person, or how did that happen?
I think I've been really lucky to have a self-awareness that there are actually so many people smarter than me. I'm really grateful for that. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but I just always know that people are smarter than me. And so I've just always been curious about people, what they do, how they do it. And so it actually just started from just a natural curiosity to understand what people were doing. And because of that, I started to run into people that I just thought, you know things, and I don't know what you're doing, but you know things. And so my first two coaches, I actually just reached out to them, and I said, I don't even know if you're formal coaches. I just knew they were doing really amazing things, and I just said, can I please pay you to learn from you? And it ended up being really great. And then ever since then, I've just always tried to have a business coach or some sort of formal mentor that's always running ahead of me somewhere
Nice.
to help me. And so that especially, I mean, yeah, for skill set, it's been great, but more for mindset to help me to kind of understand the why behind everything that I'm doing, why I wake up every day to do it. And yeah, I 10 out of 10 recommend any business or life coach you can find. I think it's awesome.
Nice. I totally agree with you. I haven't done that as well as I should. It's something I'm personally looking into. So I find that really interesting. And I've done okay, or rather I've done well with masterminds and doing small groups. And I've found people where it's like, okay, I want to be the dumbest person in this group. So
Yeah.
I don't want to hold them back. I want to be able to offer them something. But if I get in there and I'm like, okay, I know what everyone's talking about, I should probably not be there. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird, vulnerable place to find yourself, to want to be the dumbest person in the room. But it's a great thing.
Definitely. All right. So moving on to the automations. So we know a little bit about your background. We know that there's been some great results. Is there one result that you want to talk to us about, either with yourself or with somebody you've helped out? Like, I'm curious because I've had my own experiences with automations and routines. So I think just to kind of disambiguate it for people, like, could you give an example of like, here's what somebody did, or here's what you did as far as a routine that ended up changing something positively?
Yeah, totally. I help people automate a lot of different things. I help them to automate their businesses and also their realms of productivity. But I think one of the most meaningful things, and this has actually been a result that has occurred over and over, so this is why I want to share it. But particularly with this one woman, when I teach this process of routine automation, when you talk about automation, to automate something means that it works by itself or with no direct human control, or it can also mean done without conscious thought. And so what I try to do is I try to help people to set these routines that be done without conscious thought. And the way that you do that is that you just choose once, and then you set up your system so that you actually eliminate the ability to choose again. So to give you an example, and this is what this woman and several others have done, is she really wanted to automate her eating routine. She was trying to lose weight. She was a mom of 4 kids and just struggling to get to where she wanted to be, really, really down on herself. And so I taught her this concept. She was one of my coaching clients. I taught her this concept of routine automation. And I kind of walked her through this example where I said, listen, your goal is to eat healthy. You want to lose X amount of pounds in X amount of time. So it wasn't a matter of knowledge. She knew what she needed to do. She just couldn't actually make the decision to do it. So I said, all right, let's say that you have egg whites, a Pop-Tart, French toast, and an Eggo. Let's say that you have that. I said, your willpower is going to work pretty well, probably even for the first few weeks. You're going to pick your egg whites. But then eventually convenience or boredom or all these other different factors, you're running late, will come into play. And all of a sudden that Eggo waffle is going to start to look pretty enticing. And so your likelihood of choosing the egg whites just goes down and down because your willpower does. And also just because of the fact that you have 4 options. But what we were able to do is that you actually choose once to eat healthy, and then you eliminate any other option that there is to not eat healthy. So what she did is she just only had healthy options in her house. So she got rid of the Eggos, got rid of the Pop-Tarts, and actually she provided healthy options for her kids as well to get rid of those. And so now, even if she did want to go eat healthy, literally her only choice was to eat healthy, if that makes sense. And so the choice was made once. And so she was able to just continue that over and over and over again and make this decision without conscious thought, which is what automation is. And so it was amazing. She was able to get incredible results. She lost a ton of weight. And it's actually been really great for her. I mean, she's kept it off and she's done amazing things. And since writing my book, a lot of people have written in, especially with diet and exercise type successes. I think just because those are really visible, and I think they're really uplifting as well. But that's just been one example, just to show what is possible when you automate. You make the decision once, and then you essentially eliminate all the other decisions, so that that decision just continues to happen over and over again.
Nice. Yeah, and that's got to be great to hear that from people. Like those types of stories are nice. And I actually, full disclosure, everyone listening, I've read Kathryn's book, which I'm going to highly recommend everyone go check out. And I was like, I've got these like semi-formalized routines. I've got these things I do, but I was like, there's a couple things that, I would like to do more often. And this is maybe getting into the too much information zone, but I was like, not as good about brushing my teeth at night. And I'm an adult, I'm a grown up, I should be able to do this. And so I added that to my list. I made an Evernote, just a little checklist. And then I added that to the home screen on my phone and added a reminder at 8:30 p.m. to go through it. And, it's been really helpful. And so it sounds like something small, but getting that from reading a book and then being like, oh, okay, if I need this process, I can apply this to so many other places has been really helpful. So.
Yeah, I think that's what's been really cool. Has been anything really simple, from like brushing your teeth to losing weight to all these different systems that will help people to gain more money. I think that's what's most fun about automating your routines, is that it's not just limited to an eating routine or a morning routine or even an evening routine. Any routine, any series of actions that you want to be consistent in your life, you can do it if you apply these principles of automation to it.
Well, cool. Speaking of Kathryn's book, so it's called Automate Your Routines and Guarantee Your Result. And the first person who's listening to this, if you've joined my Facebook group, the Real World Productivity Growth Group, and you say, I want that book from Kathryn, I'll buy you the book. So first person to do that whenever this is posted gets it. Yeah. Otherwise, just post and grab it. It's a worth the read. And I mean, it's not even about the cost. I mean, it's like a cup of coffee or two, and the results are going to speak for themselves. So moving right along with that, though, something I've heard, I think this is interesting. I'm not going to incriminate anyone, but someone asked me, they said, do you ever feel like your life is run by routines? And I thought that was really interesting. And, I paused to think about it, because I don't think anyone likes to think of themselves as like not spontaneous or not fun. And there's a lot of really heavy biases, right, that go with that like, oh, you're into routines, like you must be boring, or do you ever have those kinds of questions, and how do you respond to that?
Oh yeah, well, 100%. And I have had actually a lot of people ask me that question. So it's funny that you have as well, as a productivity person. But what's really interesting is that, especially if you read my book, and all the beginning of my coaching sessions, what I do before I ever teach them these principles of automation is I ask them, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to have this? And a lot of them actually say just they don't feel in control in their life. They're wasting time. They wish they could spend their time doing different things. And what's really interesting is that one of the biggest benefits that comes from automation is a more clear mind, which honestly results in greater creativity and spontaneity. And one of the examples that I love to give is Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. We know them. I mean, they've created some of the most brilliant, creative products, platforms, and communities that literally this world has ever known, with Apple and with Facebook. And what's really interesting is that if you dive deep and you look into their routines, so much of what they do is actually automated. So like if we look at Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, they actually follow a similar principle. They wear the same outfit every single day. So you got Steve Jobs. I mean, if you picture him in your mind, he's got on a black turtleneck, jeans, tennis shoes. And then with Mark Zuckerberg, he's always rocking either a gray t-shirt or a gray sweatshirt. And it's really interesting. They both come out and publicly said that the reason why they do that is the reason they automate that decision, they just chose it once and never choose it again, is because they understand that willpower and mind power, it works like a muscle and it depletes over time. And they said that they would so much rather use the willpower and the mind power that they have to put it toward things that require greater creativity. And so it's actually really interesting when people come with this question of, do you feel like routines run your life, or do they just make your life super dull because you're doing the same thing over and over again? But people that actually really understand the power of routine automation, what they do is they automate the really monotonous things that you have to do every day, like brush your teeth or go to the gym or shower, things that really sustain you. And they do that so that it becomes mindless, quick, and easy, so that the time that they do have, they're able to use their mind power and willpower to be spontaneous and to be creative.
Definitely. Yeah, one of the things I was thinking
kind of shifting your perspective.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking it was interesting too. One of the ways I hadn't thought about it before, but with the toothbrush example, this is I will obviously not be featured as like a testimonial on Kathryn's book page.
You don't know that yet. You don't know that.
But it's one of those where it's not. I mean, obviously there's the benefit. I brush my teeth. That's great. That's why I did it. But also, there's getting rid of the downside of, how many times I thought about it and felt bad that I wasn't brushing my teeth and was like, man, I should be doing this. And not having that is the biggest benefit in my mind as everything else. And I think that sometimes that's overlooked too.
Well, and I think too, even I say to a lot of people as well that are a little bit hesitant or just not sure if this is going to work for them. I even ask them just, what if you could wake up every morning without hitting the snooze button? What would that do for your life? If you knew that whatever time you set your alarm, you were going to wake up feeling refreshed. And that one action alone, they say, would just totally increase the quality of their relationships, of their business, of their health, almost everything, which is that one thing. And so even with just a few simple things, you can totally just change the outcomes of your life. And so I always say, well, if that's the only thing we automate, then it looks like this might be a good investment for you. So
awesome. Sounds good to me. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end here. I've just got a couple more questions for you. So one of them is, and I'm going to leave this completely open, so you're free to choose your own, but what one book do you find yourself recommending the most to people?
Oh, what a great question. So the books that most resonate to me are books that really ignite my quote unquote why, the reason why I do things. I think that there will always be new systems and new softwares and different things. And I think it's really important to keep up on that. But I think the things that really sustain us and give us the fuel to automate your routine or to start a business or to show up every day for your kids, I think it's this burning why. And so I have a fiction book and a nonfiction book that I always recommend. The fiction is called The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And I'm a pretty religious person, but the book is really interesting. It actually kind of gives a narrative on what he believes to happen after you die. And it kind of is just really insightful, and it gives you a lot of probing questions to ask yourself while you're here. And it just really makes you look in the face, why are you doing what you're doing? And I love that. And then another book that I really love is called Tools of Titans. It's by Tim Ferriss. And essentially what it is he has a really popular podcast, but he kind of just breaks down the best parts of his podcast interviews and puts the gems into this book. But it is amazing. And you kind of feel like you're stealing, because you just get to know the insights from these brilliant, brilliant people, just these amazing mentors who really figured out their mindset and how they move forward. And for me, those two books, regardless of whether or not you're in the entrepreneurial space or not wanting to be in it at all, I think everybody needs to really figure out what is their purpose and what are they doing here. And those two have just been really, really great for me. So those are the two that I would probably recommend.
Awesome. That's great. So I'm a reader. I'm going to check that out. I have read part of Tools of Titans, but I'm going to have to go back and check out the other one. So nice. We'll do that. I was scribbling down the names here, so I'll probably have to go check those out afterwards. Okay. So last question for you. What is the one thing that you think anyone could start doing today to increase their productivity or just get better results in their life through whether it's productivity, automation, or time management? What's the one thing that they could do?
That is a great, great question. If I were to recommend, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead. I realize it's kind of a restrictive one in the sense that you've got to answer one, but it's anything and anybody at any level. I'm curious what you think.
So if I were to pick one thing and somebody were to start, I know I've talked about this a lot, and maybe this like goes off of the realm of automation, but you just have to figure out why. Why do you want to be productive? Because I think if you can really nail down the why you want to be productive, actually doing it becomes a whole lot simpler. And so I would just get really, really clear on why do I want to be productive? What kind of benefits would that provide for me? What kind of benefits would that provide for the people within the circles of my influence? Really, really getting down to the nitty gritty of why do I want to do this? And then from there, you can figure out what method or system you want to use, whether that's automation or go some other different realm. But I would say really get clear about your why, and that will be what fuels you.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thank you, Kathryn, for the great interview. I'm sure that the audience has gotten a ton of value today and some insights about automation and routines. So where should people go if they want to find out more about you and how automation can help them in either business or life or whatever it is they're trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually run a company. It's called Automate Academy. And basically, I help people to automate their sales, their free time, and the growth of their following. So it's really targeted toward entrepreneurs, especially in the online business realm. Anybody that needs more online sales, anybody that needs help freeing up their free time, and anybody that wants more of a following, I help them to apply these principles of automation to make it happen without basically just set it up and let it go. And so if you would like, if any of those ring true to you, if you need any help with any of those things, just go to automateacademy.com and you'll just be able to learn more there. You can unlock an automation vault that has a lot of information for affiliate sales, online course sales, automating your social media engagement, automating your inbox zero, your routines, anything you need in the realm of automation, it's all there. So just go to automateacademy.com and you can see it all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. I'd like to invite you to check out www.productivity.academy today for more information on how you can better manage your time, become more productive, and just get more effective doing the things that you want to do and achieving the goals that you want. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next podcast.